You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there, welcome to episode 33. It is a couple of weeks into November 2020. How many of you already have your Christmas decorations up? How many of you put them up on November 1st? I've seen some really neat photos on social media of combined fall and Christmas themes. So cool. For this year, I'm running a little behind on decorations. I think I might be able to swing it this weekend. Our weekends have been booked since hockey season started back up. All of our son's games are on Sunday afternoons, which really messes with our ability to watch the Steelers games in real time. And I'm happy to report that we only missed the first quarter last Sunday. Played right here against the Dallas Cowboys. Woo, 8-0. It was an ugly game, but I'll take the win, especially against that team. Sorry, not sorry. This little hockey team we're on did really good too. You should have seen my husband getting fired up when they went into overtime because he wanted to get back on the road ASAP. We were playing an hour away from home and he didn't want to miss any more of the game. It was really to the point where, look, I don't care who scores, just score and end this already. And yes, it was our team that scored. Pretty quickly too. Game over, moving on. They are now 2-0. It's really great too that they demonstrate such fantastic sportsmanship. Last year they did what I've pretty much seen all sports teams do, even in the youth sports. Both teams lined up and they gave high fives to each other. Good game, all of that. And this year, to minimize contact, of course, there is unavoidable contact during the game. They line up side to side instead of single file, and they tap their hockey sticks on the ice. And both teams are facing each other. It's actually a really neat way to sign off, and it just takes a few seconds. Strangely enough, the past 3 games, because they did have a little bit of preseason action, the past 3 games the opposing team has just walked off, sometimes in anger because they lost. And their coaches were right there with them walking away. My thought about that? Well, I think it's sad. I really do. And you could conclude that maybe they didn't get the memo, but it was pretty clearly outlined in all of the things that are different this season because of COVID. It's kind of perplexing, really, because sometimes you lose. And when you do, handling that with grace really speaks to your character. I could draw a comparison right now between a little something that's happening in our country, but I won't. We'll just leave it right here. Because I already addressed catastrophizing last week. This week, I want to talk about the holidays. They are officially upon us. That might make you really excited, or it might fill you with dread. And let's talk about it because the holiday season can always be complicated, and certainly even more so this year. Just the extra layers of everything that comes with navigating a pandemic. And I'm not really going to get into the pandemic this episode. I will only say that we're changing up. Our family is changing up its usual plans to visit my mom in Florida for Thanksgiving. We're going to sit this one out because honestly, we don't want to compromise her and my stepfather. So I don't even know yet what we might whip up for Thanksgiving, but it's going to be light. My husband and I like to buck tradition, and one year when it was just the 2 of us, we made homemade pizza. Sometimes I wish I could get more people on board with my plans, but they don't always cooperate, as people generally tend to do. They do what they want. That's how it's always been. A couple of years ago, we even ditched the decorations. I don't even remember what all was going on in our lives at the time, but we literally looked at each other and said, we don't want to deal with it. We didn't want to drag everything down from the attic, and we didn't want to spend our entire weekend putting everything up, dealing with however many strands of lights weren't going to function, and then cleaning up, tossing out shit that we didn't want to hang on to anymore, all of it. This year, of course, is going to be full on decorating. That's just how it has to be for me. And some of my neighbors even have their outdoor lights already up, and our downtown is already decorated. I really don't think there are any more rules in 2020. We may all keep our stuff up through spring, who knows? I'll bet it will be just fine either way. And holidays can be hard. I see it every year, really. I see parents, especially you moms, overextending themselves to try to make the perfect memories for their kids, doing everything from family portraits to elf on the shelf to custom gift wrapping and ensuring everyone gets a gift, everyone gets a card. The decorations, the parties, the school concerts, the church activities, all of the things. I see them running around in a frenzy, trying to get it all done, barely pausing to take a breath. Now, some of those activities may be off the table this year. So there might be just a little less to feel like you have to get done. And it's very possible that you might be dealing with unemployment or underemployment, so money is tighter and that becomes a stressor. Perhaps you have lost a loved one this year and it will be the first Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa without them. That's always a possibility when the holiday season rolls around, that you are still working through grief. Here's what I want to say to you about the holidays and all of the stressors that seem to come along with them. You don't have to do anything, because I see it all come out over the winter holidays. Whatever it is that you celebrate, I see both the worst and the best of humanity. I see people snapping at each other. They fight over limited numbers of popular toys at the store, yelling at the customer service representatives over the phone, porch pirates, skating away from the hockey team that just won and is demonstrating sportsmanship, all of those things. I also see a lot of people willing to give of themselves and their time to be of service to their communities, demonstrations of kindness, patience, and love for their fellow humans. There's that too. So be sure to make a mental note of those things, because sometimes when we're in a low place already, it's easier to see the things that will further bring your mood down. But I promise you, when you can open your mind and your heart to see the beauty, even in the ugly, or at least find some way to understand, you'll be feeding your mind with something positive, balancing it out. I think that a lot of what I've seen over the years of just observing how people behave this time of year is just that frenzy, that coming from a place of perfectionism. Everything has to be perfect. All of the gifts, every meal, every table setting, perfection. It's really the ultimate exercise in people pleasing with perfectionism layered on for good measure. If the gifts are perfect, if the cards all get to their destinations on time, if the decorations are on point, then people will see you and appreciate you and maybe even love you more. And that's a tall order. So be careful with that mindset, because by now you should know that you don't have that kind of power over someone else's thoughts about you. So trying to control them is only going to leave you feeling unfulfilled, maybe even empty. And this is a really good time to remember this, to keep it top of mind. Your interactions with your family and close friends during this time are really going to set the tone. Your interactions with cashiers and service workers are really going to set the tone for you and for them. Ask yourself how you want to show up this year. Do you want to show up like a frazzled hot mess of stress because you're trying to get all of the things and be all of the things to all the people? Check your motivation there. As I said earlier, you could well be trying to people please without fully realizing it. You may be trying to keep a tradition alive, a tradition that lost its meaning long ago, so you're not even sure why you do it. But you just know that your grandmother always did, and you want to honor her memory. Perhaps that's the thought that you're having. Take just a moment to reflect inward and ask yourself why you feel like you have to do all of the things that you're doing. Because I'm going to break some news to you that you may not want to hear, but that's what I do. Most of these things that you are rushing around doing might barely be acknowledged or even remembered later. I'm not saying this is always true. I'm just saying to check your motivation. If you're trying to pull off the perfect holiday experience for your kids, for example, or especially the perfect gifts, there's a chance that you're not curating the memories that you think you are. There's a chance that all they will remember is what a frazzled hot mess you were around the holidays. It's true. As Maya Angelou famously said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This is so much truth. And who do you think you are trying to curate memories for other humans anyway? My friend, that is impossible. So try leaving your perfectionism at the door this year. Everything is different in 2020 and beyond. There are no more rules. You want to try something different? Then do it. If you want to not decorate at all, give it a try. I'm telling you, when we had our little minimalist Christmas a couple of years ago, it was absolutely as enjoyable as any other year. We put the boys' gifts under one of our houseplants. I had a little light-up snowman, a poinsettia, and we called it a day. It was so much fun not to feel obligated to do any of it. All you have to do is change your thoughts about it. Now, this year may be the year you want to do all of the decorating, and that's okay too. I'm certainly doing it this weekend. I swear I am. I'm doing it because that's what I want to do. And that's the trick. Remember, I'm pretty sure I've said this before, your language matters. Instead of saying, I have to, change that to, I get to. Then it feels less like an obligation and more of an honor. I get to do this thing. I also get to choose not to. Okay, let's also touch on the frayed relationships that you may be having within your extended family this year. Holidays are always fun to bring that into the equation, always. But coming off of a contentious election and the pandemic still raging and all of the things that this year has brought us, you may have had some interactions with family members over one or more of the big events of this year and perhaps are dreading either seeing them or talking to them on the phone or video chat. I do hope you haven't ended a relationship over opposing viewpoints. Of course, that is your choice to do so, but check your motivation there too. Are you mad because they don't believe what you believe? Have you made judgments about their moral character because of who they voted for? Remember that binary mindset that I've talked about before, this idea that someone else's belief or motivation is either this or that. You're either with me or against me, good or evil, right or wrong. Let's take who you supported for president as an example, because I know that's an important and timely conversation to have. And because our elections are always held in November, they play out just in time for the holiday season every few years. Keep in mind that for a lot of people, it really comes down to one issue that they feel so strongly about. That's how they pick their candidate. One very deeply held belief that they won't compromise on. If you are strongly opposed to abortion and you believe one candidate more closely aligns to your view on that matter, you might be willing to overlook a lot of other things in order to cling to that singular most important cause for you. Does that automatically make you a racist? Not necessarily. But our thoughts are spinning about how on earth Aunt Mary could possibly support this candidate, so it comes to the conclusion that Aunt Mary has been a closet racist for a long time. And you really don't want to have anything to do with her anymore, even if she was your favorite aunt growing up. Well, that's not really a fair conclusion to make, is it? Punishing your dear aunt and ultimately yourself over opposing viewpoints isn't going to generate positive emotions for anyone. However, on the flip side, if you're visiting with family, again, coming from that place of obligation, because that's what a good daughter, sister, or niece does, but in so doing, you are really ignoring all of the signals in your entire body that scream, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this, because what will they think of me if I don't? Then you're setting yourself up for a less than pleasurable experience, for sure. It's okay to decline an invitation. It's okay to say, I love you, and no. It's okay to say, not this year, if you honestly feel that you need to work through your thoughts and emotions around some things. It's totally okay. They will think whatever they think. You don't have control over that. You control yourself and your own thoughts. I do suggest that if you're struggling with your judgments about family members, that you really examine them thoroughly and bring your curiosity and compassion to the table, whether it's the physical table or imaginary. There have been heated debates among family, friends, and neighbors, not only in our country, but around the world this year, more so than any other year. If you bring your curious mind, you're much more equipped to have a civil conversation on any topic, no matter how controversial it might be. And compassion? Well, it just feels better to extend that to others and remember the things that you love about them than it does to feel angry and resentful that they don't hold the same views as you do, that they aren't wearing the same filtered lens through which you are viewing the world. It's okay that they don't see things exactly the way that you do. When you show up with curiosity, that can be disarming and helps to cut the tension. So yes, remind yourself to remain curious. What can they teach you about yourself in this moment? And as I mentioned last week, try the help me understand approach. And let me expand on that just a bit. I'm sure that comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of my favorite habits is seek first to understand, then to be understood. And the premise of that, if you haven't read the book, is that we humans don't employ our listening skills in our communications as much as we could. Instead, we are formulating our rebuttal, thinking about the next words we want to say, rather than actually listening and seeking to understand the other person's viewpoint. Try listening more. Actively listening and genuinely trying to understand over convincing someone else to view the world through your lens. It makes for much healthier conversations, truly. And I'm talking about verbal conversations here. Those are the best ones to have. Not a string of sentences on a social media comment, although I do have one I'm going to share with you in a little bit that was pretty darn good. You get the full experience when you can hear the voice inflection and, better yet, see the body language if you're face-to-face or on video. Seek to understand. It really does help to ground you in that curiosity. And also choosing to believe that most people are honestly trying to do the best they can, what they think is right. Now, I want to be crystal clear that I'm not suggesting that you allow others to be abusive to you, especially family. I know that some of us have close family members who carry so much conviction of their own rightness that they will be up in your face about it. That's where you need to have boundaries outlined ahead of time. Now, I haven't addressed boundaries much here, but let me share with you a really cool thing about them that you may not have considered before. Boundaries don't just have to mean that when you say, if you do this, I will do this. Boundaries are something that you decide are necessary to protect yourself, and you don't have to share them with anyone. You just keep them to yourself. Plan ahead for the inevitable scenario that comes with every Thanksgiving and decide that you will excuse yourself from the conversation, walk away, whatever it is. That's what you will do if this happens, or if these words are spoken that cross your boundary of tolerance. It's a very powerful thing to do just to keep it to yourself. You don't owe anyone an explanation. How great is that? I think it's pretty great. You don't have to call anyone out or announce to the room who offended you and why. You just walk away. Go outside for some fresh air. Whatever you have decided will help you manage the tension in your mind. Breathe. Maybe you know some good breathwork exercises so you can stay physically present while quietly calming yourself. Decide ahead of time what might test your tolerance and resolve. Then make a plan to protect yourself that doesn't include lashing out and yelling at your family. Trust me, this is doable. Finally, I think many of us need to examine or re-examine the story that we tell ourselves about what our family dynamics should be. Especially during the holidays, most of us like to paint this lovely image in our minds of everything being picture perfect. Not just the decorations and the gifts, but the interactions that we have with our family. We want to envision everyone holding hands and getting along for the entire time, and that's not always how that goes. Again, we've formed this image because of all of the messaging we've received our entire lives up to this point, and that we continue to consume about what a perfect family gathering looks like. Remember, we are all still perfectly imperfect humans, and our dynamics will likely even shift over time. So what you may recall from childhood doesn't look the same anymore. People grow and learn and evolve if they're doing it right. And that brings me to a few weeks ago, I had a friend give the best response to a Facebook post that really struck me. The question was, have you ever had a drastic change of heart about any of your deeply held beliefs? If so, what was it, and what was the hardest part about making that change? And my friend's response was this: religion and politics in my 20s, marriage, friendships, and what love is in my 30s, parenting, politics again, forgiveness, and choosing my battles in my 40s. How much time do you have? Life is an evolution if you're doing it right. Wow, that is what I'm talking about. That short response covered pretty much all of the things that we tend to argue over. Yes, life is an evolution if you're doing it right. Sit with that realization for a minute and ask yourself in what ways you have changed over time. I bet you'll find a few things. I know that I can. And just because your closest friends and family members haven't changed in the same way that you have, doesn't make their path any less remarkable. Every journey is remarkable, and every journey is different. Release that death grip that you have on this story of what holidays should be, and pave a new path if your heart leads you there. We get very steeped in our traditions and we cling to them like a child clings to a security blanket. At some point we have to let go. Upgrade that blanket. It's too small and it doesn't cover us as well as it used to when we were smaller. We can always choose to write a new story over and over again as we go. And as we grow, as many times as we want to. Your stories are yours to edit and rewrite as many times as you choose to. That is also very cool. So here's what you let go of for the holidays: perfectionism, people-pleasing, and judgments. Here's what you take in: curiosity and compassion. Here are the new things that you try out, setting boundaries and rewriting your story about what the holiday season means to you. Try something different this year. See where it leads you on your journey. And don't forget to love the other humans. Just love them, warts and all. As Rumi says, your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it. Yeah. Keep that in mind through your interactions over the holidays. Instead of looking for the love and acceptance to come from others, look within and feel it for yourself. Give freely of yourself without expectation. From there, everything falls into place. I will close with a short poem attributed to Howard William Hunter. He was president of the LDS Church for a short time. And while I'm not affiliated with LDS, the reasons I love this is because many years ago, my grandmother sent it to me in a letter. She printed it out on red paper and included a handwritten note. And the first time I read it, I was in a dark place over the holidays, and it's just what I needed to hear. My grandmother always had my number like that. Maybe you've heard it before, and this was actually given to me before the internet had fully taken off, so I only recently found it again online. But I do read it every year on that piece of red paper with my grandmother's handwriting and her spirit. This Christmas, mend a quarrel. Seek out a forgotten friend. Dismiss suspicion and replace it with trust. Write a letter. Give a soft answer. Encourage youth. Manifest your loyalty in word and deed. Keep a promise. Forgo a grudge. Forgive an enemy. Apologize. Try to understand. Examine your demands on others. Think first of someone else. Be kind. Be gentle. Laugh a little more. Express your gratitude. Welcome a stranger. Gladden the heart of a child. Take pleasure in the beauty and wonder of the earth. Speak your love, and then speak it again. That just brings everything into perspective for me. I hope that it does for you too. Everything is going to be as perfect this season as it was ever going to be. Enjoy all of your moments. If you found this episode helpful, I would be honored if you share it with a friend, drop me a review on Apple Podcasts, maybe even do both. Regardless, I simply love to share this with you. Light up and shine on.